Welcome to Aligned to Impact, the podcast where conscious leadership meets bold entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Summer Huntington, and each week we dive deep with founders, innovators, and thought leaders who are rewriting the rules of business from the inside out. Here we talk mindset, brand, content, culture, the real stuff behind building a legacy-driven business that doesn't burn you out. No filters, no fluff, just real conversations that inspire aligned action and intentional impact. If you're a visionary leader ready to create with purpose, grow with integrity, and lead with your heart, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
Right. So I'm happy to use AI as a proofreader, right? As something that will show other AI. So Google searches, hey, this is a legitimate business. This is the information, and kind of push us for that. But the reason we're kind of against AI in the therapy realm, so in particular inside our session, is because at some point someone's going to try to take my job because of AI. And we can see that it's already happening.
Welcome, Megan Davidson. Thank you so much for jumping on the show, Aligned Impact. So Megan runs a facility. She runs a Candor Therapy Network. And I'd love for you just to start with kind of a little bit of your backstory, Megan, about how you got into this work.
Thanks for having me, first off. Backstory, I think every therapist has I want to help people, right? Or we also have this, I've been doing this my whole life. Everyone has come to me with advice giving, and they just kind of spill their guts. And then my whole life I've been asked to, help, right? And so I transformed that into my business. And then over time it's grown to being, just a passion, right? I want to help people. I worked in emergency services, and I remember switching during COVID to outpatient care, so one-on-one counseling, individual counseling. And I remember in the interview, them asking, why do you want to do this? And I said, I'm tired of not seeing people get better. I want to see people continue to get better. Emergency services this is what's happening right now. Let's make sure you're safe. Whereas outpatient care is, I get to see you for a few, weeks, months, hopefully not years, but sometimes years, right, on end, so that we can see the growth and progression. But I started Candor 2.5 years ago from an idea. And I think we had talked about this before, just briefly, but I have it on our blog, the more detailed founding story of Candor. But I came back from maternity leave and was never given any sort of pumping accommodations or any support from my boss, who had also just returned from maternity leave. So it was a really kind of a slap in the face of not being supported, of seeing these are therapists who are not helping me out. And I just want to help people. I just want to be here and support people, and no one is supporting me. And so it was very quickly evident that I needed to make something else, make moves, and I could do what I needed from my employers for other people.
Yeah, I do remember you telling me that story. And as a new mom on my third baby I just had, it's so important to be able to have that freedom, that flexibility to be there for your kiddos and be able to be a mom, but also, running a business, being a entrepreneur. Can you tell me a little bit about the structure of Candor Therapy Network?
In terms of just the clinicians
virtual,
I have, or
you guys are completely virtual.
We're completely virtual, which eventually we want to get a brick and mortar, right? But virtual works really well for a lot of people, right? As you just said, a mom with 3 kids, right? We can have session during nap time, right? So we can, I work peripartum mood disorders, so it is clients scheduled during nap times. I have hey, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. I'm putting so-and-so down, right? Totally fine. I'll see you when you're available. It makes couple sessions where you can, he's at work, I'm at home. Or for me, I also do exposure work for obsessive compulsive disorder. And so I can have you in a bathroom, and we can have session in a bathroom, in the shower. I've had some really strange places to do session. And I'm not joking. I have sessions in the shower sometimes. It's we're going to turn our video off, but this is where the work has to be done. So virtual offers such a wide range of spaces to just meet people where they are, meet people in their car, at work, right? So care is so much more accessible. We're completely virtual. Eventually we'll get one to, like in person, but virtual care is actually just as effective at treatment. And I think there is a stigma kind of around that, like, oh, it's not as good as it is just as effective as in person. Yeah. So we decided on a totally virtual.
Love it. Yeah, I downsized my brick and mortar about a year and a half ago to go completely virtual. I have a handful of in-person clients because I still love the in-person element. But I would say like 90% of my clients are virtual, and people are always baffled at like, how do you run a virtual business? And it's just like we're connecting today.
It's hard, right?
I mean, I don't think it's that hard. I think it's definitely, once you've committed.
Right. I think it's more of planning on the forefront. I can't just run into somebody to have oh yeah, I meant to talk to you about this. It's, hey, can you have a minute? And you have to schedule that kind of water cooler talk instead of having it be organic. But otherwise, I think, completely virtual business is where the wave of the future is.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you share a bit about your role and how it fits into the bigger picture at your company?
Yeah, so in January, we actually delineated roles as owners. I'm one of 5 part owners, which is a really strange business model. Most people, you'll get like 1 or 2 sole proprietors. So we have a very strange business. But I was named the CEO because it is my baby. This was always my dream, to find a way to meet people where they are. And so I am the one who, while I own the same stake as everyone else, I am more of the deciding factor on where we're going, on marketing, where's our next step, what do we want to do? And our goal is growth, right? And we want to grow in the way that aligns with our mission. So with the ethical based growth. So how do we do this organically without AI, which we'll get to, I think, without AI, which is an interesting task. And I'll explain why we're kind of a little against it in a bit. But also with the unique perspective that therapists also deserve to take care of themselves. And, most kind of larger therapy practices, you're a cog in the wheel. And so you don't get a good therapist. You don't get somebody who takes care of themselves. It's just you're a number that they have to meet their metric. Whereas here, our therapists we have a number, but like meet it or don't, right? Like, are you okay? Can we make sure that you're being taken care of so that you can give the best care to your client? So that's how we're planning to grow. So it fits in with that of, I'm also a counselor, so I have my 24 client caseload, and then in between sessions, I am doing marketing and making decisions and telling people to write blogs and writing blogs and anything, you name it. I get, my roles are basically do whatever is needed and market and grow the company.
24 clients a week plus admin plus marketing. Yep, that sounds about right. Wearing all the hats of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I've been kind of looked at the somatics piece of it. It's building our tolerance window for slightly uncomfortable things, as you know, building that resilience. So what does a typical day look like for you with managing your 24 clients a week plus admin plus marketing? What is like an ideal day for you, integrating the self-care piece as well?
Oh, yeah. So I never gave up my pumping time. So when I stopped pumping, I realized that I could actually, mentally, a therapist can only see so many before you just like stop during it. Like your brain stops working, you short circuit, or like nothing computes. That for me, that's 7. And most people are like, how do you do that? I take a half-hour break every 2 hours.
Nice.
So I see 2 clients, I have a half hour, I see 2 clients, I eat lunch in my half hour, I see 2, I have a half hour, I see 1, right? That's if I'm fully booked. So Wednesdays and Thursdays, I'm just full on client care. One of those 2 breaks, I'm moving my body in some way, right? I'm walking, I am doing some yoga, I am doing my physical therapy exercise, whatever it is, there's one of those 2 breaks, or if I have somebody cancels or I don't have a session that hour, moving my body. And I've determined, it just depends. Like yesterday, it was supposed to rain in the afternoon. So my morning, I was like, going on a walk at 10, right? Because my 3 o'clock won't. the other break ends up being some kind of marketing something, right? So it's, oh, let me do this blog or check back on this or what do, as I have my giant to-do list that never shrinks down, it just keeps getting added to on my email. I'm like, oh, I could get this done in 20 minutes, or I'm working on something kind of throughout the day in between things, answering chat questions, texting clients of, hey, do you want to schedule with so-and-so? Anything that's coming up, whatever I think I have the time for. So a day is, I put my kids in my husband's car at 7:40. I come in, I check my email. What am I doing? I see my 8 and my 9. I go on a walk, my 10:30, my 11:30. I eat lunch, my 1 and 2, whatever marketing, and then my 3:30. And then from 4:30 to 5, I'm finishing up whatever didn't get completed that has to be completed. And then I'm making dinner and going. It's nuts day to day.
Is that 4 days a week or 3 to hit the 24?
So that's 4 days a week.
Okay, so you have 4.
So I did 4 days a week, and then which is full time for a therapist, right? And then on Fridays I have office hours from 8 to 9. This morning I did posted a blog post. I did our marketing, and then I did my payroll. And then I met with a friend who also runs a thriving therapy practice, and so we kind of talk shop and home. And then I called my CFO and we talked about what are we doing for our taxes? And then we're here. So Fridays are and then after this I have personal health appointments. So Fridays are my flex day of either I'm doing admin work or I'm doing my self-care or a mix of both, right? Just depends on what I need that Friday.
I really love how you broke down the time blocking. That's something that I teach. I coach wellness professionals and yoga instructors on building a business, like building a solopreneur business. And everyone always struggles with the time blocking piece. And the way that you've organized it with 2 clients and then movement break, and then 2 clients and then another, break to do something like brain break, switch it up, is brilliant. And I think it's a really key part to being successful as an entrepreneur is being disciplined with that time, and every hour is accounted for. So I really love that you broke that down.
Yeah, I don't think you can do it any other way, because there have been times that I've seen 8 people back to back and I drop at the end of the day, and I can't do that. If I'm not disciplined about it, I can't show up for myself and my family later. So it has to be in that way.
How many other folks are on your teams? It's all virtual. How many other therapists and practitioners are on your team?
Right now, 7 with me, so 6 others. And then we have 2 people who are credentialing, who are kind of in the wings waiting for their start date.
Nice. And any admin folks or people that are in charge of marketing, or is that mainly you?
You're looking at her.
So you touched on why you're against AI, and I'm going to just play devil's advocate here, because I actually do utilize AI for operations, things like lead generation, setting up meetings, having a VA, marketing for sure. So talk to me about your ideas or your thoughts on AI, integrating it into business.
Yeah, so I think AI can be useful at times, but what we're kind of seeing, and what you can see the writing on the wall with AI when you get people use ChatGPT for anxiety counseling. Okay. And then you start to see because once you work in the field, you get advertised all of the things, right? So we're getting advertised, can you, even our EHR says, hey, let's use AI for your notes. And then it will generate your note for you. And then, which I played with, I was let me just see what happens. I was half of this didn't happen from the 3 sentences you asked me. It gave me something that didn't actually occur in my session. But then some note-taking AI will record your entire session and then pull things from that. We all know that AI learns, right? So I'm happy to use AI to send back for leads, or use it for our blogs. We usually run it through for SEO optimization, right? And grammar. Right. There's only so much I can do. I wasn't, I'm not a copywriter for any means, but I can write a blog about therapy and 5 reasons, that you might need therapy, but I am not going to know how to integrate it with the best. Right. So I'm happy to use AI as a proofreader, right? As something that will show other AI. So Google searches, hey, this is a legitimate business. This is the information, and kind of push us for that. But the reason we're kind of against AI in the therapy realm, so in particular inside our session, is because at some point someone's going to try to take my job because of AI. And we can see that it's already happening, right? They're saying like, hire this AI bot for your anxiety treatment. There is something vastly different. And the number one healing proponent of therapy is your relationship with your therapist. You can only get so far. And I know like my partner is like obsessed with one of the AI models. He's like, it's so fun. They treat you like a friend and they learn how to talk to you. But at some point, right, there is a difference between a friend and a therapist. And AI is learning from us. And then we also, none of us love the fact that it's recorded at some points, right? If they're recording you to take notes, then all someone has to do if God forbid, right, we become this like tracking for X topic, right? That's easy to do if you track in, same AI for therapists, you know, my confidentiality is you can say whatever you need to here, right? I have some people that I joke with, they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you could tell me you murdered someone yesterday and I can't do anything about it, right? Like that's part of, you can. And that's the thing about therapy. You can tell me that you did something in the past, but you're never going to do it again. And I can't do anything with that, right? You can tell me all of that stuff, unless you have abused a child, then I have to tell you, right? But if you're not telling me anything, future harm to self, current harm to others, current future harm to others, I can't, right? But if you're recording it, I can't say with right that you're going to have all of your confidentiality, because where's that recording? Where does that go? And so we're never going to use AI in the therapy practice. We might for, you know, Google purposes, but for here, it's when I'm job security, I'm not getting rid of my job. I don't want to teach something how to do my job. And then it just isn't, it feels icky in our
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely researched those. There's so many different new AI tools specifically for therapists, and the pitches. It will save you 30% of your time because you don't have to take notes, and it's going to prescribe a care plan. And so, the carrot is really shiny, and you don't even have to tell your clients that you're recording, and it's HIPAA compliant.
Right.
So it's kind of like, yeah, you're right. And for me, I share a similar sentiment in that I do movement coaching and I do one-on-one business coaching, and I help people build solopreneur businesses. And there's an element of we're trading Voxer messages throughout the day. We're in the business. We're in for you. You're in their life on a very deep level, and that cannot be replaced by AI, nor should it. So I definitely applaud you for putting your foot in the sand and
not doing it.
Yeah. But I would say on the other foot, it's like, things like marketing, things like lead gen, things like even mass content production, where you can take a long form video and splice it into like 50 videos in like 2 clicks.
Sure.
It's pretty rad, but I hear you.
And that I think, is great. And I think there is some, but there still has to be a human to go through and look at some, at the back end of what to do. So I think it can be a tool, but I don't think it's the end all be all.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that you have a firm boundary on that. And I think that will serve you well in maintaining that client relationship and just maintaining the ethics. And like you said, just having that privacy and confidentiality. So I would love to learn a little bit more about how the transformation that you provide your specific clients. What are your specialties? What's your approach? How do you provide a transformation for your individual clients?
Yeah. I think it's different with each therapist, right? So on staff, we've tried to hire people who all have different specialties, right? Because we don't want to overlap in our clients. So like we have a grief specialist, we have an ADHD specialist, PTSD, right? I focus on perinatal mood disorders and obsessive compulsive disorder. So what it would look like, your first session is basically I have an hour to get through 85 questions, right? And all you're doing is seeing me typing concurrent documentation. I have to get through, tell me about yourself. What are we working on? Let's make your treatment goals, right? I'm Adlerian therapy driven. So it's more of a short form therapeutic relationship where we really dive deep really quickly. So I want to know all of the things about you in brief, and then, and I'll go into like OCD specialties in a second, but all of the things about you in brief. And then I kind of I don't have to hit on your childhood history, right? Everyone's like, oh, I have to dig through my trauma, right? Not unless we're working on that. But there are some things that we learn from our families of origin that translate into what's happening now. So some pieces I want to know about that. But then I immediately start to look at coping strategies. What's your sleep, right? And we try to make things better as quickly as possible with those basic like building blocks, so that when we get to the harder work, you have the safety spaces so that you can, we have to set you on a safe space, because if you're not in a good location, if you don't have housing, we're not diving into your therapy. Like we're just not diving into trauma, right? We can't, because you don't have a safe place to operate from. So we have to start from that place of safety, security, consistency, showing up for yourself, self-care, right? Really aggressive self-care, and then moving step by step into integrating new things. Let's challenge your thought process. Let's relearn how to have more positive thoughts, right? And then we're going to talk, for me, I talk a little bit nutrition, right? Especially for postpartum moms. Anxiety can be helped with just eating yogurt twice a week, which is a wild concept, right? Right? Like not completely gone, but can be alleviated a little bit, right? Because your gut is your second brain, and there's a lot of research behind that. So it doesn't have to be just medication, right? I think that's also a misnomer right? People are like, oh, meds will change my mind. No, I like to explain how the mechanisms work, right? If after like 6 weeks of us trying to change things, I don't see a difference, then I'm going to suggest medication, right? Like, have we thought about it? Because I'm hitting a wall. Like, what's the wall that I'm hitting? But some people have tried every medication, it doesn't work, right? And so it's like, okay, push through. It's going to take longer. So it's really tailored to each individual, what we're working on, being there to support you, right? I'm always finding strengths in my clients, right? Like, I love it. You're doing great. Like this is so funny. I give out gold stars. And I had a client ask, like, do you actually mail them? And so I bought some awards for my clients, because sometimes it is like, oh my gosh, you used a public toilet. Oh my gosh, right? Like that, you haven't done that in 10 years. That's amazing, right? So the small wins, right? Like I'm here to win with you, and I want you to get better as fast as possible. My goal is always to work myself out of a job. And I always like joke, like, and I do a pretty good job of it. Like every 6 weeks I need a new client because I'm graduating one of my old ones, right? Because I want to see people get better. Like I want you off like I love you, but get off my caseload, right? Like I want you to do this on your own. I know you can. And so it's always working towards the goals. It's always like, how do we get you to where you want to be?
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like you do comprehensive, holistic wellness coaching, self-care not coaching, because obviously you're a therapist, but I a lot of times I take a similar approach, but I
they are
a therapist to be like, here's your nutrition, here's your lifestyle factors. Let's integrate one new habit at a time, one behavioral change at a time.
Yeah.
Love it.
And that's just, I think partially for me, like that's what I've done for my whole life, is trying to like, how do I do the nutrition? How do I do all of the things? And so I bring that too, of like, here are things that have helped me, not just meds, but like also eating better and moving my body. And so it does come from what we know. Yeah.
I have a question about that, because I'm really interested in, I just had my third baby at age 39, which people make sure you know that you're geriatric and high risk.
You're like, thanks.
I'm curious, have you used yourself, or do you prescribe or offer calcium magnesium supplements in the evening for better sleep?
I not a doctor. I can't prescribe medications, but I have been dealing actually after my second baby with subclinical postpartum thyroiditis. So what that means is that, and I had postpartum depression with my first, and then so I knew it would happen with my second, and she's 14 months now, and I'm still healing my body from that. But postnatal depletion syndrome, or postpartum depletion syndrome, is like this brand new thing. you wouldn't think so because it makes a lot of sense, right? Like obviously we're depleted postpartum. But one of the supplements that because I've been seeing a functional nurse practitioner, other reasons that like I'm all about the holistic, right? I have people who are like, I don't want to take meds. I'm like, listen, Zoloft has gotten me to a lot of great places. Okay. My supplements make me feel better, but the Zoloft makes me a great mom, right? And because when I'm not on the right dose, I'm irritable, I'm frustrated, I don't have the patience to deal with my toddlers, right? And so it's our relationships, but then I can tell my clients, right, like magnesium glycinate is actually really great for anxiety and sleep and all your heart and your thyroid, everything, right? And so I'll talk about the different nutritional supplements because I graduate today from my functional nurse practitioner for my subclinic, right? For that. But then I also will look at the thyroid as one of the biggest factors. If you're like, oh, I just have anxiety or depression, I need you to get your blood panels checked. And I need you to ask for your B12 and your D3. And we don't think about micronutrients as being so important, but from personal experience, right, I started taking all my supplements and 4 days later, I was like, oh, like you don't have to be exhausted all the time.
Oh yeah.
Like I thought that was normal.
Yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you. I get very little sleep because I've got 2 kids under 3. And so I rely on, I still take my prenatal pills.
Yep.
And then I take a very heavy iron supplement it's called Her Package. And I do the CalMag. It's just a powder you drop in water at night. And then high protein, like super high protein as an aging mom. But yeah, I think there's
super high protein. Yeah.
There's so much you can do with nutrition and over-the-counter supplements, but it's really having a therapist be like, hey, let's try these other lifestyle factors or these other things. And
right. Like we don't always have to jump to medication, but it is a really nice tool. And I think it is really hard. So the other thing, the stigma of it, of like, I have to ask for help. It's so hard to do that, especially like the first meeting I had with my primary care after my OB ran my numbers for my thyroid and was like, it's normal. It was 0.07 from the bottom. I was like, okay, but one can't experience every symptom and be normal. Okay. Right. Like that's,
oh yeah.
And my primary care delightfully said, well, once you just lose the baby weight, it'll all be better. Guess who a year later hasn't lost a single pound, right? And it's because my body can't sustain it. And so part of the therapeutic process with that is, can we love our body for what it's done for us, right? Like, I know it's hard right now, but like, how do we lean into this? And then we have to figure out financially, what can you afford, right? Most people can't afford a functional doctor, right? So how do we make the gaps work in the care? With the stigma, right? My OB was like, you don't have to go to it's not going to have on your tombstone, did it without Zoloft. I was like, okay, I needed that reminder, right? Like, okay, I don't have to I can do this with help, right?
Yeah. I love that you said you just finished a functional medicine nursing practicum. What is that?
I can tell you the program, but it's a specific program that was marketed on Instagram to me. But they're out of Indianapolis, Postpartum Care USA. And so they have a postpartum process where they run your labs. It's functional nurse practitioner. And so they ran my labs in December. Definitely validated that I was dealing with this subclinical postpartum thyroiditis because my thyroid swung all the way to the top part of normal at December, so 6 months later. And then now with their help with supplements and how do we decrease our cortisol levels and what's our stress like, right? Because as a therapist, I also need to take care of myself, right? Which is, again, part of our model. If I'm not taking care of myself, how am I taking care of my clients if I can't show up for me, if I'm absolutely, utterly, because December, I would see my 7 clients. I would make dinner, do all the same things that I told you I was doing in that massive schedule. And I would pass out at like 8:00. We'd put my 3-year-old down and I would also go to bed, right? Like no time with my partner, no time to do anything else, just like exhausted, go to sleep. And so something had to change, right? And so doing this 3-month kind of reset was really helpful because now I'm like, okay, like here's what I'm eating. And reminding, my thyroid's my baby now, right? Like I have to take care of that. I have to de-stress. I have to, right? Like so many things hinge on taking care of my body. Right? So.
And for our listeners that are not familiar with functional lab testing, from what I understand, because I've looked into it, there's quite a few online companies now that basically will send a phlebotomist to your house. They'll do some blood tests, they'll take the vials, they'll send it into their functional lab docs. And the main difference between functional lab testing and then doing at a your traditional allopathic doctor office is that they're testing against healthy norms instead of norms, right? So
optimal versus normal, right,
yes,
is the difference. So the optimal level of your thyroid is between like 1 and 2, and mine was always like 0.87 and 4.2, right? Never optimal, right? So it's, they do test the optimal levels versus the normal levels.
And I love that they take a supplemental approach. I will be doing that again. I applied for it and was about to do it. Then I became pregnant, and they're like, there's no sense in doing it while you're pregnant because everything's going to be off. And so I'm super excited to get my functional labs, and thanks for that.
Yeah, it was absolutely wild because I also get to kind of take all this information back to my regular primary care and say like, hey, they tested my ferritin levels and it was which is your iron stores, and they were in the tank. Can we retest those? So now it's also giving me the tools to advocate with my kind of quote unquote normal doctor to move forward in that way too.
Now, do you recommend some of your perinatal clients doing functional lab testing as well? Or are you still kind of beta testing it for yourself?
Both. I'm not gatekeeping this. So it's, if you have the funds, right? I have a client who's like vomiting every day if she doesn't take her prenatal. It's like, something has to be wrong. And I don't like all of her lab work is normal. Like, okay. If you have the funds, right, here's what I would suggest, right? And I can say I'm not a doctor, but like, here are some of the supplements that might help with the irritation, right? It's zinc or magnesium, right? Those two can really be, and they're water soluble. So it's not like we're going to overdo it. Like vitamin D, you can be toxic in it if you have too much, right? So there are some things we can do without. So I do recommend them going to postpartum. I also like, hey, how much do we trust our OB? Can we use our OB to like get our ferritin levels? Can we get our primary care to test this for it? Because sometimes you can just ask your primary care. And when they say, well, why do you want that done? You go, well, my therapist says I should. And they usually will just run it for you if someone else gives it. So no, I don't gatekeep this information from anybody because I want people to get better faster.
Okay. Well, thanks for going into depth on that. I know a lot of women will be listening to this podcast, and it's just really great to hear about this because I think people they don't do it because they don't know it exists or they don't know how to access it. So Google functional lab testing, you'll find something. There's a lot of different outfits that do it. Okay, so switching gears a bit into the industry that you're in, which I would kind of classify you as, you're in the virtual therapy realm. What trends are you seeing in virtual therapy right now that you could kind of comment on that you're seeing?
Trends is in like what's happening. I mean, I think AI is a big one, right? Like we already mentioned, in the, how do we navigate with that? A lot of trending right now is towards private pay, which is really interesting that, people, and to be fair, taking insurance is really annoying. I have to, send it back. I have to wait 45 days for it to get paid. They can always come back and say no, or they can say, actually, your client owes $80 instead of 45 because you had one extra minute and you billed it. You're like, okay, now I have to go back to my client 6 weeks later and say, hey, actually, you're going to owe me XYZ amount of money. And so it is this back and forth where self-pay is just, here's your fee, here it is, I get paid regularly, right? So I think part of it is moving. A lot of people are moving towards self-pay. We won't because we always want therapy to be accessible. And we've all had a point where it's like, I couldn't afford therapy either. I've been there, right? If I didn't have somebody who took my insurance, I wouldn't have been able to do it. And so I think that's one thing that's happening. So it is harder to find care of people who take your insurance. The stigma is becoming a new thing again. And I love Gen Z because they're very much against, like, everyone's got a therapist and it's great. They're like, no, my therapist said blah. But what we're seeing just across the United States is that there is that stigma again with, SSRIs are addictive. They're not, right? They don't.
Can you just explain what that is real quick?
Yeah. So, the, national health information we're getting right now is saying that a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which are your anti-anxiety, anti-depression meds, are or we're going to put them in, what's the way that he's phrasing it? This is our health secretary who is phrasing that, people on ADHD medications need to go to farm camps, right? And to workplaces, instead of taking their Adderall, and Adderall is a class 3, like it's a controlled substance. It's a C2 or C3 controlled substance. But in terms of the way that your brain works, these medications aren't addictive in that, and if I were to take ADHD medications and I don't have ADHD, it would be addictive because I would get so jittery and I'd be so focused. But someone like my partner who has ADHD and he takes his Adderall, he levels out and he becomes like a functioning human being, right? Like he can actually remember details and he can do things. And so for me, it's the same with and even I have the same, like, oh, do I take enough Zoloft? Is it, right? Like, can I come off of it because I'm feeling good? And then I try it and I go, no, girl, like you're feeling good because of the medication, right? All that these medications do is the way that they work is that you already have the serotonin. It just in nanoseconds expands the amount of time it takes for your body. The way it works, obviously, like a podcast, people are going to see it. So I have both my hands up. But if you have like, I don't know, molecules shooting from one hand and then the other hand, they go into the dendrites, into the like nerves on the other side. This space in the middle is where the rest of that serotonin sits. And so what happens is it's reuptaked. That is the actual term, which is why selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. It's like putting a baseball cap on half of these reuptake spots so that the serotonin has to go towards the next one, again, in nanoseconds. So it's just using what you have more effectively. That's all these medications do. They don't change your brain. They don't do anything, right? You already have this. It's just your brain doesn't know how to do it as effectively, right? And so that's what these medications are. But if we're getting media news from the biggest, national health news in our country is saying that anybody on these medications, they're addictive, they're bad, that's going to trickle down into everyone. And that takes generations to break.
Right?
So,
I mean, I do love that you use both. Like you use both. You help with lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It's a testament to your work that you're getting people off your caseload within like 6 to 8 weeks. That it's effective.
Well, so I mean, it's not 6, right? So it's usually like you're on my caseload for about 6 months, but then I will have an opening every 6 weeks because I'm graduating somebody. But I usually in an intake can tell you this is a 6 to 8 week problem, or this is going to be a few months.
Nice. Everything's so scientific with you, like your time blocking, like everything is a system, right? And you really method it, which is a really valuable trait to have as a CEO, because it's like you've created this method so you can train other folks in this method and you can mentor people to getting the same results that you've got for your clients. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, what's working well for you right now in your business, in the practice, and what's a little frustrating? Let's start with what's going well.
Right? What's going well? I am really proud of the message that we are putting out there in our founding story and just getting our voice out there. The more I started meeting with my clinicians, including our own co-owners, because they are also clinicians. Everyone wears multiple hats. But I started meeting with everyone to say, what do you want? What's your goal as a therapist? Like how can I make your dreams come true? Right? Like best boss ever, right? How do I make your dreams as a therapist come true? I have somebody who doesn't want to work anymore. He's one of the, I just gave him away because he's our only male therapist, but if somebody goes, look, they'll know. He doesn't want to work. He just wants to take his owner's share and he wants to, but he's homeschooling his son. Right. And so he wants to be kind of a stay-at-home dad, I think. And I love that for him, right? My goal is like, eventually I want to own a lake house, right? That's the dream. But we're on the way there. And I always look back and, it's been slow growth, right? Like so far, but we've been doing it in such a strategic way that everyone we bring on is someone that I can say, I know that X person does good work because I interviewed them and I looked at their clinical skills and I looked at their notes. I know how they respond in situations, so I'm not worried about their clinical care. I know that our clients are getting the best. And so you can see that we're doing, that we're really staying towards the mission and really making a point to like, we've been going slow so that we can do it right. And so that's, I think, my favorite part about looking back and like being just proud of like where we are.
They always say you're only as good as your team, and bringing on high quality practitioners, high quality team members, training them, listening to what they want, what their personal goals are.
Yeah.
All so important in leadership. So are there any things that have been frustrating or things that you want to see improve within the business model that you've created? Client acquisition, like obviously is always a pain, but what are the things that stand out that are?
I think client acquisition is probably our biggest, right? Because we've all been functioning really as solo practitioners and getting our own leads and things like that. And now we're hiring people. We have 2 people on deck and I need strategic partners, right? I'm trying to find good places. Like I have a functional nurse practitioner in my back pocket who I can send clients to, but I need someone who like we've partnered with. And then I need someone who can also prescribe Zoloft, Lexapro, Prozac, right? So I'm looking for that kind of strategic partnership, but we also vet those people to make sure they're also ethical, right? So it's slow going because of that and having to make sure that, we're getting the right kind of people to work with. So I think the marketing piece is the most frustrating because do I pay someone to do marketing that I can do? I don't want to use AI to generate, 5 symptoms of anxiety blog, which would take 15 seconds, right? If at most, right? It'd take me longer to type it out than it would for it to pop it back. But I do want it to be like, we've generated this content. So it's doing it right is going to take longer. So I think we're struggling with how do we market in a way that still feels like our brand and smarter, not harder.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I've been doing a lot of virtual master classes on topics of interest for clients, and it seemed like get 50 to 100 people in a virtual Zoom room, educate, and then have a call to action for care. Have you done any sort of virtual summits, virtual master classes, virtual teaching? That might be something we could chat about.
Virtual master class.
So which metrics are you most focused on in improving in the business right now? What metrics define success for you?
I don't know that I have metrics, and I think that's where I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, right? I've been on all these marketing calls lately, and they're like, how many leads do you have? How many clients do you have? I'm like, I don't know. I should probably know that number. I know it now. We have 140 active clients, and among 7 clinicians, that's pretty good because 4 of them are part-time. So, but I don't know, right? I think we're looking at growing, 4 intakes a week would be great and 4 leads. And so I've just started tracking that as a parent that all of a sudden, literally 6 weeks ago, I was like, here's your delineated boom role as CEO. And I've just nonstop ever since. It's like, cool. How do we market this business? How do we grow? What's a metric? How do I use my EHR to use the metrics? What's a CMR? I don't the, metaphor of drinking water through a fire hose is absolutely everything's been on fire until about this week since I started. Okay, there's so much information. And now I'm like, wait, hold on. Nothing's on fire. We're doing great. Checked in with everyone. Nobody's burning, right? So now it's okay. We're going to do the things that I've learned are I've updated our website. I have learned a ton about coding and Squarespace, and stuff I never thought I'd have to learn about, but it's fine. I also didn't think I'd enjoy it this much, how much marketing I'm enjoying. But I think we're on the right track to hit that metric with doing 2 blog posts a week that post to everywhere, right? Or LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, right? It goes to all the socials, threads, and then putting ourselves just out there doing things like this, right? Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that, because you are sharing what it's really like to run a business as a female entrepreneur. And a lot of folks, they have this like pie in the sky goal of like, I want to run a practice, but it really is a lot of hats, and you adapt to it. You get systems down, figure out your metrics over time. Like you can't learn it till you've gone through it and then figure it out. This is the thing I need to fix in order to get my time back. So a couple more questions and we'll wrap it up. Where do you want to be 6 to 12 months from now?
Drawing a profit.
Sweet. What kind of profit? What are we talking?
I mean, ideally, right, by the end of the year, I would love all of our part-time people to feel comfortable enough to come full-time, right? Like, I think a lot of our people come on part-time, and then our goal is to make it so that you're like, this is your dream job, that because we just let you do whatever you want to do, because we trust you, and there's no micromanaging, right? Which is crazy to think about, right? And we're going to do a lot of things for you. And, you know, I have 2 clinicians who want to run a PTSD retreat in the fall. Go for it. Get me, like, what do you need? Like, give me a proposal and let's make it work, right? And they're so excited, right? Because if I can get people excited to do something, they're going to want to stay. They're going to like do more, right? Like the more I can appreciate and actually help meet their goals, the more they want to do. So by the end of the year, I want to have that retreat done. And then I want to be turning some sort of profit. Like, I don't have a specific goal, but I would eventually like to shrink down to my 10 curated clients and then be able to do my like CEO role and be paid for it. Right now it's unpaid.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Where can we find you on Instagram? What's your website? Where can our listeners find out about what you're doing?
So you can find us on www.candortherapynetwork.com. So Candor is CANDOR, Candor Therapy Network. And that's the same handle on everything: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Threads. It's all basically the same, but follow us everywhere. You can DM me through that. I think I'm linked to all of it. If you have any questions, happy to always answer anything, right? We're in Virginia, so there is kind of a delineation. We can only really see people when they're in the state of Virginia. However, that PTSD retreat is going to be open to anybody. So if you're in person and you want to travel to wherever it's being hosted, we can absolutely host people.
Amazing. I love that you're virtual, because a lot of my clients are spread all around the country and the world. A lot of our listeners, people that are watching this on YouTube. So definitely get in touch with Megan, especially if you are a postnatal, perinatal woman and you're wanting that specialized approach. Thank you so much, Megan. It's been such a pleasure to dive deep, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Aligned Impact. I'm truly grateful to have you here in this growing community of leaders, innovators, and conscious change makers. Check the show notes for all the links and resources we mentioned today, and you can explore more of my work and programs over at FlowShala.com, or connect with me on social media at Summer Huntington and YouTube as well for behind the scenes movement inspiration and business tips. Stay tuned for more episodes of Aligned Impact that inspire you to lead with intention, get empowered, and create aligned impact in your life and your community.